you want more information about the conflict style of flies, just have a look at some of the other videos that I've posted, and you might get some information there that might help. But anyway, let's get tying. So you can see that's what we're trying to achieve today. We'll just take that out and we'll place our hook, which is a size 1 bent streamer from Ahrex. Just so you know what we're up against here, and you can tie this fly in all the range that this hook is made, and I think it's from size 2 to 3/0, I think, and that'll work fine. Here's a one tied on, I'm not sure if that's a 2 or a 3, but this size is awesome for largemouth bass. It's got 3.5 inches long, I suppose. But anyway, let's tie the size 1 version, and I'm just going to use black thread today. You can use orange or red, or if you want a little hot spot on the eye. So we're just going to take our thread and we're going to start it in the middle of the shank there, or at the front, and work our way back, kind of open turns. What's the spot we're looking for is the thread when it's hanging to be halfway between the hook point and hook barb, and that's where we're going to put our dumbbell eyes. Now I've got some large black dumbbell eyes there, plated, and let's just do a simple crisscross turn. There's nothing complicated about putting these eyes on. I like the eyes here. These ones, I think they're called perfection eyes. They're kind of an hourglass shape rather than ones that have a gap in the middle, because you have to sort of make sure you center those, where these, they're kind of self-centering, which is kind of nice. And we're going to finish that off with what I call helicopter turns. I'm sure someone else calls it too. Got the term from somewhere, but all that is to clench those crisscross turns. So you're essentially just going underneath the dumbbell eyes and on top of the hook shank, and you're just clenching all those crisscross turns together, and it makes it a little bit more secure. So the only other thing really you need to make sure is that the dumbbell eyes is kind of 90 degrees to the hook shank. And if you've achieved that, that's pretty much all you need to achieve. Now we're going to move the hook in the vise so the hook point is approximately level with the hook eye. And when you're happy with that, we're just going to clench that vise and secure our hook. Grab some faux bucktail in the purple, and I'm going to pull aside probably 60 fibers to get you an idea of what 60 fibers probably looks like. If you kind of pull it tight, it's about the same diameter as your eyes, which is kind of 4 mil, I think. Anyway, I'll just cut those off the hank there. So we got our faux bucktail. As you see, I'm doing it in purple, and we're just going to side it up so it's about 1/4 inch or a little bit more past the bend when it's level with the eyes, just like that. And then we'll just transfer it back to your other hand, just pinch it there, and then you've got that spot locked down. And we're going to put that right in there, and a couple of tight turns, and then just hop your thread over to the eye side of the dumbbell eyes and push the butt ends down, a couple of wraps, and then some really tight wraps, and then you want to do another helicopter turn just so it clenches that hair right in tight to the dumbbell eyes. You can actually even get the butt ends and give them a good pull, just making sure that that's tight. This material is very slippery, so you don't want a lump of material in the middle there, that's all. And with open turns, we're going to wind that back or towards the eye until we're just before the bend, and just take your scissors and snip that off at an angle, just like that. If you've got any stragglers, make sure you get them. You don't want any fibres getting in the way of your eye. And wind them down. Wind back to your dumbbell eyes and then flip over so you're on the bend side of the dumbbell eyes. And what we're going to do now, with touching turns, we're going to wind down the bend until we get to the point, because as you wind down the bend, we're changing the angle of the tail here. We want the tail, at the end of the tail here, to be about in the center of the eyes, and it's looking pretty good to me. It's usually, you'll get an idea of how much material, how long that wrap is, and it's usually about 1/4 inch. That gives you an idea. And there's a point where you can do a few more wraps and it doesn't actually change the angle, but when you keep on going, you'll notice that this angle here will keep on going down, and it'll get to the point where it'll create too much drag for the weight we have. So we don't want that. A good place is when, like I said, when the eye is about in the center of your bundle. And then we're going to wind back so we're up tight against the dumbbell eyes again. Now if you're going to add flash, we will do. We've just got some gold crystal flash. I've got about 4 strands, and we're going to place them underneath the dumbbell eyes and on top of the hook shank like that. So now we've got a loop, and all we have to do is wind that in, and we'll have equal amount on opposite sides of the hook. And we'll trim that just a little bit longer than the hair. And flip your hook up like this. Like I say, this is not a very complicated fly. I mean, bunny leeches aren't complicated. They've only got a couple of materials, so that's kind of nice. But I think you'll be really happy with how this moves. And like I said, in the dirty water, this can really help. And I'll just put a little bit of head cement on that, just so it secures everything before we do anything else. Let that sit for a couple of seconds. Now I've got, this is a 1/8 zonka strip in black, and anything bigger than the size ones, I'd use a magnum strip, which is 1/4 inch, I believe, just so you don't what's the word I'm looking for? The integrity of the hair. The bigger the hole you put in that hide, the weaker it's going to be. So, like size 1 and 2s is fine with the 1/8 zonka strip. But if you get into a bigger hook, I think the magnum strip is your better choice. And all we're going to do here is we're going to jump over, and we're going to place the zonka strip on top of the shank there, which is on the inside bend. And then just hop your thread over, and then give that a couple of turns there too, just so it's really secure. And then with a little bit of slack, so what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to put a little bit of slack in this hide before I pierce it through the center of the hide. So it just gives you a little bit of slack, so as you slide it down the bend, you're not going to tear. See how there's a little bit of a bend in there? If you pull that tight and pull it over, it might break your hide. So when you get that to a good point, we can just take it out of and just push the point through the hide, just like that. And then just place it back in your vise. And we can cut that hide about level with the tips. And what I like to do you either can just use a razor blade to cut it so you don't cut the tips of your hair, or you can slide the point of the scissors in tight against the hide and then just snip it, and you won't cut that hair off. And then we can make a point, just cut the corners off the hide if you want to. I mean, you don't have to actually do it. It's just an old school, I suppose, way of doing it. And that's that part of the fly done. Next we're going to take some cross-cut rabbit. If I can find where I put the cross-cut. Okay, I'm back again. I got some cross-cut. Black. Again, we can mix the colours up. You can make this as simple minnow fly. You tie it in white. Here's one tied in white. You can actually put eyes on it if you want. Make it more like a minnow or not. It doesn't matter. Okay, so we've got our cross cut. We want to place it. Just make sure you. I'll just snip that a little bit bald at the end, so I just snip that off. So you want to offer it up to your hook shank with the hide facing up and the hair going from right to left like this. I'll just give you a better look at that. So when you place it on the inside of the bend, the hide will be up. I'll just grab the corner of that, and then I'll give you a better look at what's going on there. And bind that nice and tight. And we're going to work our thread up to the eye with open turns, just like this. Again, you can put a little bit of head cement on the shank. Boy, this stuff really blocks up. Okay, there we go. Not a great deal, because you don't want it wicking into the hair and making it all gnarly. That's really what you want to avoid. Now it's just a matter of simply winding it on the shank, but what we want to do is we want it overlapping turns right at the start. And that does two things. It adds a little bit of bulk at the back of the fly, so we've got more drag at the back of the fly than we have in the front of the fly. It also protects the hair in that bite zone. So if the hide's going over the previous wrap, it kind of protects the hair from the teeth, if you know what I mean. And we're going to do that for about halfway. So then we'll change to just touching turns where the hide will lay flat on the shank. Just make sure our thread's right at the end. And with that last wrap, when we're right up against the eye, what I find to get the neatest head is if I use my thumbnail to lock it in position and then use my other two fingers on my non-tying hand to hold the tension in the hide so I can cut it. It's kind of a little tricky, and then I'll just snip it as close as I can to the hook eye, like so, and make sure you don't lose tension on that because it'll unwrap, and then you get a turn on the very tip of the hide. And what I find most of the time, you don't get a gnarly bump like you do when you just cut it off after wrapping it a couple of turns. You end up with a little lump. I don't know if maybe that's just me, but maybe that's just me complicating things, but that seems to work. You got a nice little neat head there, and it's very secure. So when you're happy with how much your head, the size of the head, like I say, this nano silk is kind of bulletproof. And the other good thing about this nano silk is when you do a whip finish, you can virtually do as many turns as you want, and it'll still slip through without causing a knot and breaking the thread, which is really frustrating. That's only happened to me about 1 billion times, especially when you do your whip finish with your hand, because you're not controlling that loop as it goes back into the head. So people that use a whip finish tool probably are thinking, what the hell is he talking about? But people who do it by hand, they go, oh yeah, I know, I hate that. Okay, we'll just see if we can tame all our hair back on our fly. And that's pretty much the Conflict Bunny Leech. Again, you can see it rides hook point up, which is pretty self-explanatory. So it is snag resistant to a certain degree, certainly more if the hook was pointing down. But the cool thing is the action you get from this fly. You do move a lot of water for the size of the fly. So what else do we need? We need some head cement, making sure we don't wick it into the hair and make it again look too gnarly. It's another thing I don't really enjoy if you put too much material. Head cement in it soaks into the hair and makes it look very ordinary. Okay, I'm kind of happy with that. So the other really thing that's unique to the Conflict design is that when this fly sinks, it actually sinks head first, which you wouldn't think with the dumbbells being so far back on the fly. But what happens is, because of the faux bucktail is coming up at an angle, the water pressure is hitting that as the fly is falling. So it's forcing it to fall hook eye first, which is counterintuitive when you think where the actual dumbbell eyes is tied on the hook. You'd naturally think that's either going to fall level or it's going to fall backwards, which is not the case, because as it's falling, the water pressure is pushing up against the faux bucktail. And like in the early days, when I was designing the Conflict style of fly, I was using bucktail, and there's nothing wrong. You can substitute real bucktail. The only problem is the bucktail, when it gets wet, it kind of curls, and it's not consistent as far as the stiffness of bucktail. It's a lot easier to work with, obviously, but the thing with a synthetic bucktail, like the faux bucktail, it reacts exactly the same from hank to hank. It still will curl if you leave it in your box where it's pushing up against something. But the easy way to straighten it is just pour hot water on it, and it'll just straighten up. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the Conflict Bunny Leech, a simple fly, and I'm going to tie probably 3 more flies in the Conflict style in the next coming weeks. So I really appreciate it if you maybe subscribe and push the like button. You'll get the next installment of what I've got to offer. So again, hope you enjoyed that. We'll see you next time. Cheers. Whoa. Wow, this guy's not giving up. Oh. Wow, he's a tank. That's a nice one. Oh. Holy smokes. He's got some weight to him. He's got some weight to him. What a ripper. See you, mate. No, we got a few dinks there, but that's super simple fly, just tied in the conflict style.